Hey there, Laker fans. Welcome to another episode of Lakers Extra Detailed. This episode is titled Finding Balance. And the Lakers are on a 4 game win streak right now after a blowout that got turned into a small victory against the Charlotte Hornets. And it's great to see them pick up these games that they need to pick up. They had the great win against Golden State Warriors. Now they have the win against Charlotte, and now they've got a back to back against the Sixers and another game against the Wizards before a big showdown in Madison Square Garden against the Knicks. And one of the things that's recently happened is Rui Hachimura being taken out of the lineup for a game or two due to injury, as well as Gabe Vincent. And so, as a result of that, the Lakers have been able to deploy Jared Vanderbilt and get him back into the lineup too, as well, which has had some really great results. Vando has looked really good athletically, much closer to, as we sort of discussed, like he's over 80%. He's closer to like 90% of what we normally get out of Vando. So that's been really great to see. And then the Lakers have been deploying Dorian Finney-Smith and Vando together, along with even Max Christie at times. And that's been really, really great defensively for the Lakers. So what I wanted to talk about in this episode was basically what I think is going to happen with Rui trying to be inserted back in the lineup. And if you watch Lakers detailed to any of the live streams that we do, Raj and I do, you'll notice that we've always said, even since we first traded for him, that Rui's natural skill set, the stuff that he's good at, makes him sort of a natural substitution guy for LeBron. So when LeBron leaves the floor, you bring in Rui, who's an isolation scorer who likes to score out of the post, the mid-range area, that sort of thing. That's a lot of what LeBron does now. Today, you're not going to be using Rui for like as a live ball handler too much outside of isolation situations. He's not a guy who creates a lot for his teammates. He's really just a guy who scores in isolation and finishes plays. And the Lakers in the starting lineup have been trying to fit him in as sort of that in that four spot with rebounding and defense. And it's very clear that Dorian Finney-Smith is better equipped for that role, especially since it's a low utilization role out of that position, because it's, Austin, Braun, AD are going to be the ones that score the entire time. So one of the things I wanted to discuss was how the Lakers are going to try and reintegrate Rui, and maybe how I think that they should reintegrate Rui into the rotation. So first and foremost, the minutes are going to be a little interesting to come by. Somebody has to lose some minutes here and there. It might be Dorian because he's still ramping his way up. I think Vando's still he hasn't really been playing more than 15 minutes a game, so he's limited. Could be Dalton that gets affected too. So it'll be interesting. Or I mean, honestly, if his minutes go well, LeBron's minutes maybe come down a little bit. Anthony Davis's minutes come down a little bit. But the minute load is always going to be just based on how the performance is going. But really, the thing that I'm trying to figure out is what lineups make the most sense for Rui to come in. So the first thing that I do think is going to happen is I think Rui's going to come off the bench. I think I would hope that's what JJ does. I know injury shouldn't be a reason to pull a guy out of a starting lineup that wasn't successful, but I think the analytical case and I think Rui is pretty strong to continue starting DFS. And I think more importantly, I think Rui is a team player type of guy where if he gets asked to come off the bench and basically gets told, "Hey, look, we need you to sub for LeBron because we don't really have like a steady isolation score when Braun leaves the floor." I think that's like a nice way of reframing what his position is going to be. So I think JJ is going to try to do that. Either against the Sixers or maybe in the future, unless like Rui gets traded or something like that. And we are close to the trade deadline. So we'll see what happens with that. So I've been trying to figure out what lineups make the most sense with what JJ's been doing since Rui's been out in these 2 games. And 2 games, not a lot of sample size. They're not really great teams that we've played against. But, you could try to, the fun part about Lakers Detailed is we try to see if we can figure out what's happening on the back end and what the Lakers staff is actually trying to do. And I think that's why you're going to see Rui potentially come off the bench. Now, the other reason why I think that might be before I get into how I think he's going to be used, I want to explain why a way I don't think he's going to get used. So One of the things that I think is not going to be affected as much is the lineup that has Braun on the court and AD off the court. So these past two games, the Lakers have been trying to do Jared Vanderbilt at small ball, and they've been playing Dorian Finney-Smith against Charlotte. They played Austin, Dalton Connect, Dorian Finney-Smith, Jared Vanderbilt, and LeBron. And then they had lineups where they had like Shake Milton and Austin on the floor, like multiple ball handlers, and then they had Jackson Hayes next to LeBron. These are for the non-AD lineups. I don't think Rui is going to get inserted into some of those lineups because I think there is a those lineups are very clearly dedicated to LeBron taking every shot available. Like that's quite literally it's the LeBron show when those lineups come out, and the fact that they have DFS and Vando out there, it and then sometimes they play Max too as well at the same time. It's very clear that JJ is trying to play a high enough baseline of defense with that unit to in case Braun has a rough shooting night or whatever it is that happens to happen against that group. So I think the Lakers probably prefer Jared Vanderbilt at that small ball position, small ball five position, compared to Rui Hachimura because I think just higher rebounding motor, higher defensive motor, and him and DFS they just fly around on the floor defensively, which covers up for some of the laziness from other Laker players, their Laker teammates. So I don't think he's going to get inserted into that. However, I do think that there are lineups, and I tried to look through the data on cleaning the glass to see if I can make a statistical case for it to see if there's some evidence of it potentially working. I do think there is a version of this where Rui will come in and be the 3 or the 4 next to Anthony Davis. And so let me share the data with you guys so you guys can see that. You pull it up here. So when we take a look at cleaning the glass, this data, these lineups, the performance of these lineups, which is mixed results because you have to remember sometimes this is not, this is early on in the season as the Lakers are figuring things out, and they're just the different. It's not totally reliable, but there is some stuff that you can see here where Rui has played essentially the 4 spot, basically LeBron spot in some of these lineups. Now, do they go with 3 guard lineups with Gabe, Austin, Max? I don't know if they do that. We've heard that AD wants to play that too big kind of role a little bit more, and he wants a second big out there. So we've seen the Lakers play Jackson Hayes and AD at the same time over these past couple games, basically since AD said that in the Boston game, and the results defensively have been pretty good. Jackson Hayes turns into a good lob threat. When teams hyper focus on AD. I think against Charlotte, there was like a LeBron pass to AD in the paint, which turned into an alley-oop for Jackson Hayes. I think the Lakers like that. I think they like the synergy of that rebounding-wise and rim defense-wise. So knowing that DFS and Vando are better complements for that Braun-only lineup, the Braun-heavy lineup, I think Rui is going to get inserted into the AD-heavy lineup, especially if they're going to play 2 bigs. So if they're going to play Jackson Hayes and AD together as the 4-5, I think Rui probably ends up becoming your 3 in that position. And then you'll probably get Austin to be the ball handler, and then you'll get one off-ball guy like Max. And I think what we're going to see, I think if it was me, and that's what I was trying to do, I would try to see if I can find a lineup that really complements what Jackson and AD have going on as their defensive baseline. Because of course AD can score out of a lot of those positions, but there are some times where teams might pack the paint and you need a guy to knock down a mid-range shot or do something differently or have a opposite side post isolation, different things like that. So I'm going to be very curious to see how they insert it. But when you take a look at some of this lineup data, like you'll see like an Austin, Max, Dalton, Rui lineup was successful over 65 possessions. Overall, really, it's just the fact that we've had almost 400 possessions where Rui and Anthony Davis have been on the floor without LeBron James, and it's actually it's like net even. Like the defense is okay, like giving up 112 points, but the offense isn't just quite there yet. And I think these next couple of games with Rui coming back will be an opportunity for JJ to try and figure out how to reintegrate Rui into lineups that make more sense for him, like that make more sense for Rui to be successful and help complement kind of what they need on the floor. And some of those lineups, AD's a little bit more of a defensive role. They're not heavily feeding AD, uh, unless he's got it going and stuff like that. And I think that's just something that might help the Lakers out. I wouldn't be shocked if we do see Rui play some small ball center at times with that LeBron group, like if it really needs the scoring. But that I think that Brown group actually probably needs a little bit more of a traditional center, a backup center, which we'll cover at a different time altogether. So, really, what I want to talk about this episode was just how I think that they're going to try to reintegrate Rui Hachimura. So, first, I think they're going to try and at some point, for as long as he's on this roster, they're going to try and have him come off the bench and be LeBron's natural sub at that like 6 minute mark to play with those 80 lineups and then overlap, for like a 8 minute session through the first quarter, that sort of thing. And I think that will help keep a steady flow of like size and shooting, scoring, that sort of thing on the floor in a way that the Lakers just haven't had before. And I'll be very curious to see how JJ tries to do this. I'm sure there's going to be tons of experimentation too as well. So I'll be very curious to see how the Lakers kind of sort of figure out how to fit guys in and how to fit Rui in. Uh, the data just makes too much sense for DFS to continue starting. I know it's only 2 games, small sample size, but just that their starts have been really, really good. And Anthony Davis seems to be playing with more confidence, like kind of knowing that he has a defensive guy in Dorian Finney-Smith on the floor with him, especially communication-wise. I think Dorian's communication's just been too good. That could probably be a reason why he says he tells Rui he has to come off the bench. So I'll be very curious to see what happens, and how Rui gets reintegrated into his lineups. But if I had to take a guess, looking at the data and just kind of thinking about the different stuff that the Lakers have been running since they've been sort of since Rui's missed these past 2 games, I think that's how they're going to try and do it. I think they'll try and bring him off the bench and let him be Braun sub for the non-Braun 80 on lineup. So we'll see what happens. As always, folks. Appreciate everybody's support. If you haven't liked the video, feel free to like it. Subscribe if you haven't. Also, we appreciate that too as well. The channel growth has been awesome, and you guys are a huge part of that. So I appreciate you thoroughly. And wherever you're watching this, I hope you're having a wonderful day. And the Lakers get a win this Tuesday. On the back-to-back against the Sixers. I hope you have a wonderful day. And if nothing else, I'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.